Hello, company, and welcome to the Show People podcast, the podcast that shines a spotlight on the UK performing arts industry and those dedicated to their craft. My name is Andrew Keats. I'm a theatre director and artistic director of Queer Theatre, and of course, your host. Please welcome back to the stage, JP McCue, otherwise known as Mary Mac.
Thank you. Whoop.
I would like to know about the Fabulettes.
Oh my goodness. The Fabulettes was like a girl group that I was part of, a drag girl group, way back at the beginning. I think like 2010, 2011, something like that. It was me, Vicky Vivacious.
Wow.
And the wonderful Vanilla Lush, who's sadly no longer with us. And we were a live singing harmony group that did like party hits, Motown hits, like this amazing show. And we worked with, you know, incredible creatives on it. Like our costumes were all done by Stevie, her surname will vanish from my terrible memory, but she did like Kylie's costumes and everything. We had these incredible, beautiful gowns made for it. Her hair was stunning. The production values on it were huge. And it started at Madame Jojo's way back in the day. And we do like live shows and we took it on the road. We filmed a Christmas single that Boy George directed the music video. It was the most bizarre day. We fought like hell on that day, by the way. He blocked me on Twitter for a while.
I don't think that's his worst crime.
No. But no, it was a real amazing experience. Probably the first time I got to travel with drag properly. And yeah, it was great fun because the girls were amazing to work with anyway. And it was probably, you know, the first kind of production I'd been part of as a drag queen in terms of we went to rehearsals, we learned our harmonies, we learned choreography. So it was again like, oh, this is what I trained to do. It just so happens that I'm popping drag on to do it.
And what have been some of the other initiatives that you've been a part of that, you know, either went somewhere or indeed didn't? What's been some of the other mad projects that you've put your name to?
You know, there's not been a lot that I can think of. I've probably tried to block them all out. In terms of drag things, I mean, I used to, you know, host quizzes and things back in the day that were really terrible because I didn't really want to do them, but they paid my bills. So I was like rubbish at making the quiz up. I'd just watch the episode of The Chase that day and write the questions down. I'm not lying. That is what I did one week. One week, and this was at West 5 in Ealing.
Oh, gosh.
A long, long time ago. And I used to host a quiz on a Wednesday, I think it was. And I was, you know, tired. I'd been out the night before or whatever. But I loved The Chase. The Chase is my favourite TV show of all time, right? And so I was sitting watching. I was like, oh, perfect. I don't have to write the questions for tonight. This is perfect because it was 4 rounds. So it's like, it's 4 contestants. I'm just going to write down every question that he asks and the answer, because obviously tell the right answer. And that night I did it. And about 3 rounds in, a guy said to me, excuse me. I said, what's wrong? He said, is this all the questions from The Chase today? I didn't think anyone paid that much attention to The Chase, but apparently they did.
What's been some of the worst gigs you've ever had to do?
Oh, I mean, back in the day, I would do everywhere. And I don't think they're worst gigs now. I think I was just inexperienced and I'd probably really enjoy them now for what they are and the madness that they were. You know, I did the Black Cap back in the day, one of my first gigs, and a full brawl kicked off.
Wow.
On the dance floor. I don't know if you'd ever been to the Black Cap. The stage was quite high, then a big dance floor and a long corridor where the bar was. And my mum, bizarrely, was there that night as well. It was probably one of the first times she'd watched me do like a pub gig. And right towards the end of the show, I can't remember what had happened, but just these 2 people kicked off and then it spread and spread and spread and spread. And ironically, and I tell you this is a true story, I was singing I Will Survive at the time, right? And that's an absolute true story. My mum will clarify it. It was so funny. And then everything got... And obviously, when you're a new queen, now I'd know what to do. I'd be like, security and stop the music and whatever. At that point, I was like, do I just keep going? Like, what, is this a normal thing? That's what happens? Because I didn't... So I just kept singing. And the DJ... I think it was Mrs. Moore. I think it was DJ Little John. Was like, yeah, it's fine. They'll sort it out. I was like, okay, sure. Oh, no problem. Bye, everyone. And left. Because it was, ambulances and everything. It was chaos.
And what's been some of the pinch me gigs? What's been some of the most extraordinary gigs that you've been able to do?
I think there's been tons, and there still is tons, thank goodness. With the Fabulettes, actually, we did World Pride when it was in London. I can't remember what year that was. And it was like, I don't know how many thousands and thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people in Trafalgar Square. And we got to do a full set. We were like the penultimate act. And then we introduced Boy George. He was closing. He kind of followed us around for a while, I think. He was closing, so we got to introduce him. And it was such a, iconic moment that you're stood there in front of all those people who are celebrating being queer and being gay. And, and I just think, and I was young at the time, I probably wasn't, I didn't soak it in as much as I should have done at that point. But that was, an incredible thing to do. I did a one-woman show back in 2010, I think, called Glaswegian Beauty, that my friend Jack Weir, who's an incredible lighting designer, he was doing it as part of his last graduating course at the Barbican. And he put this amazing show together. I obviously wrote the show and I put all the numbers together. But it was me and like something crazy. It was meant to be like a 10-piece band. And then the more people who heard about it, the more musicians wanted to be involved. I think it ended up something like 36-piece orchestra. Wow. It was massive. And I've still got great clips and I've got the whole show on audio and everything. And that was a real, a highlight for me.
Whatever happened to the Fabulettes?
I left, and it kind of became like the Sugar Babes of drag. There was lots of other versions of it. I mean, I was definitely the original, but then lots of other people kind of jumped in, and I don't want to talk bad about the people who stepped into my shoes. They did have to bring 2 queens in to fill my space. I think that was just vocally. No one was as loud as me, so they needed 2 people to be loud enough.
So, and again, when it comes to extraordinary places and things you've seen, cruise ships.
Yes.
So when did the cruise ship gig start to come in?
I think properly the cruise ships came in after I did the first tour with Bianca Del Rio.
Right.
No, I'd done a couple of Atlantis cruises first. And Atlantis cruises are these incredible, it's an incredible gay travel company who charter ships for 2 weeks, 10 nights, wherever. And it is a party on the ocean. It's a phenomenal holiday full of queer joy, incredible performances, free spaces, if we're allowed to call it that, without being taken off the internet, who were everyone, and I mean everyone. When I first did an Atlantis cruise, I was worried about whether there'd be judgment, whether there'd be, everyone looked a certain way and they were all muscly and whatever. And I was, young and not muscly. Now I'm old and not muscly. But it's not that. It's not that at all. Literally, every single person from our community and allies that you could think of are on these amazing Atlantis cruises. And I've met some of my best friends on there who live across the world, and I go and visit every time I can. And it's an incredible experience. And then from that, I kind of was like, oh, I like this. I like it as a holiday anyway. The cruise ship thing was great fun. And then, after my first tour with Bianca, P&O Cruises got in touch to say, we have this space where we think you'd be great on. You can't do any of the material you did at Bianca's show, but could you put together like a 50-minute cruise ship show with a live band and everything? And I've been doing that now, I think, for like 3 years.
And what is ship life like? Like, do you have to do any other duties? Is it just the show? How many shows do you have to do? What's it like to work on a cruise ship?
It's an amazing experience for me, and it's as I do more and more of them, I find more and more things to do because I'm very fortunate on there. It's hard work. We're on every night, so I've recently just done a 9-night cruise, and you do 9 shows, so it's full on. And with the live band, you're rehearsing and get everything right. But the good thing is because out of this, I don't look anything like this. So during the day, I can do what I like.
Free spaces.
They don't add, no, well, yes. There's no free spaces on the P&O cruises. Legally, sure. We had to say that.
It's advertised.
But I do have a balcony, so... So on terms of, certainly when I'm traveling with P&O Cruises, I have my days free so I can go and explore the ports, or if we're at sea, I read and I write and I have time to do the things that when I'm in the UK running around, I don't really have time to do. So it's actually kind of helped me in terms of finding downtime because I don't really have to do anything during the day.
And how long do you have to go away for usually when you're doing these cruises?
It varies from like 5 nights to, I think the longest I've done at one stint was like 10 nights, 10, 11 nights.
And with all of this traveling, because you do a lot, I mean, just looking at your... I don't get a holiday rep anymore. I just look at your Instagram and see where it looks good. Being serious for a moment, can it be lonely?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm very lucky in terms of our contracts. We can bring a guest. But that's hard because people have normal jobs and people have lives and can't just disappear to Barbados and go on a cruise ship, although a lot of my friends are now like, oh, actually...
yes, I am available.
They'll go.
Very much available, whenever.
And but I mean, I think a lot of people who work on cruise ships or that kind of way of life in terms of traveling as an entertainer would tell you it is quite lonely. But you know, I've met so many of the other entertainers who do the other rooms on the ships, the cast that are on there for 6-7 months at a time, who've become friends, and you know, you can then when you get to port, and of course, everyone's very busy. But you say, we'll go for lunch if you want. And so you meet new people, which is great. But yeah, of course, it can be lonely. I think drag in general is quite a lonely job in terms of we're performing and we have amazing crowds in front of us all the time, which is great. But normally, it's quite a solo thing. So, you know, you get ready on your own. That's why I love Sundays here, because there's normally at least one other queen in the room getting ready or getting out of drag. So you catch up, you chat, you know, and have a laugh. And I that's what I miss about Miss Jason the most, by the way.
Me too.
The dressing room, I mean, as much as her show and being on stage with her was hilarious, you'll never, and there's so many stories we could never repeat, no. But Miss Jason in a dressing room, wherever, is absolute joy, was absolute joy. But yeah, I mean, thankfully, I don't feel lonely because I have incredible friends and family around me who get it as well. So will text and say, if they've known I've been at the ship for a while, how are you doing? You all right? We'll catch up, because you do forget sometimes.
And you paint a really beautiful image of what it's like to do drag. But what are the sacrifices that you've had to make?
Most of my Saturday nights. But listen, I love to work, and I find... obviously, you can socialise when you're working as well, and you can have a drink afterwards or whatever. But I guess that sense of it, that a lot of my circle of friends will go out on a Sunday afternoon for a Sunday lunch and drinks, and I'm like, I can come, of course I can, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, but I have to leave at 5 to start getting ready for the show at 7:30. And I don't really see it as sacrifice as such. Obviously, it's just everyone has to sacrifice things for whatever they want to do, and I'm very lucky that I love what I do. So I can't, you know, as much as, yes, I'd love to have a regular Sunday haunt where I went for lunch with all my friends every week, as a lot of my friends do. I'm also aware most Sundays they'll end up in here watching me anyway. So I'm like, I still get to see them. I still get to have a great time with them and make a lot of money doing it.
But it must be hard knowing how close you are to your family, and indeed the relationships you've had, that distance, that constant routine of get up, make sure everyone in the room is having everything that they need when it comes to entertainment. But how do you make sure you get what you need?
It's difficult because especially in terms of relationships and whatever, I'm constantly traveling, and that's hard to find someone who will accept that or be able to join you on a lot of it. But I think I try, and certainly with my friends, I'll go out of my way. You know, if a lot of them work during the week or a lot of them are in shows in West End or on tour, I'll go to them. You know, I'm very rarely working Monday to Thursday, Friday sometimes. So I'll go to Bristol if my friends are Mary Poppins there or whatever, and have a couple of nights there. And, you know, I think, and that works both ways. And then when they've got a Sunday off, they'll come in here and they'll watch me, or they'll ask me out for dinner, or, you know, you just got to make it work.
That's really beautifully put. So let's talk about theatre. There's one particular show which I know really inspired so many young people. Everybody's talking about Jamie. You did the national tour. For those who don't know about the production, can you tell us a little bit about what that musical's about and your experiences on it?
Yes, everybody's talking about Jamie is based upon a true story, a documentary that the BBC did back in 2006, I believe, about a boy called Jamie who, in essence, wanted to go to his school prom in a dress and wanted to be a drag queen, etc., etc. And the show is more about his relationship with his friends, school, teachers, and most importantly, his mum, Margaret. And the real Jamie and Margaret are fantastic people and wonderful people, and I can't imagine what it's like to see your life up on stage like that. Other than when my mum came to see it, we were on tour, and the tour was finishing in Glasgow, and which was perfect for me. I was like, amazing, because I can dump my case at my mum's. But I said to my mum, I don't think you can just see it in Glasgow at the very end of this tour, because I think you'll want to see it again. She was like, okay. So I was like, working out when she could come and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, the only place she could come to was Wolverhampton, unfortunately.
Poor thing.
She's never been back. But she came on her own, which I was like, okay, sure, probably not the best idea. Anyway, she watched the show. And the show is beautiful. The script is gorgeous. The music is sensational. It's directed beautifully. The whole piece is stunning. And I was a massive fan of it, even before I was asked to be involved at all. And then my mum, after the show, came to stage door and was a wreck. An absolute physical shaking wreck in a fully like Joseph coat that was multicolored. She looked incredible, but was bawling her eyes out. Because she said, it's like watching our life on stage. Not that I wanted to be a drag queen when I was growing up, but she was just like, it was just about having a son who was a little bit different, but loving him with everything you could. And then when he got frustrated and angry, didn't understand, you couldn't do anything about it. You just have to let it happen and then be there when he came back. And I, for me, I was like, that's why I knew you had to see it before you wouldn't get to see me do it again. Do you know what I mean? And it's such an important show for a million reasons, to see how the acceptance has changed from like when I was at school, and the way they do it in the show. Like once Jamie does appear in drag at the end of Act 1, and the way the kids, the school kids in the show, react to him at the beginning of Act 2, which is like, they're all like, it's the best thing we've ever seen. You're incredible. I mean, apart from Dean, obviously, who's like the bully of the school. No spoilers. But, the kids go wild for it, which really nowadays is how kids, young people react to drag. They absolutely love it. So I think they've kind of been able to make this musical, and it's kind of ever evolving, and I know they do update it and change a couple of things and whatever. But I think it's a real, genuine musical for our generation of queer joy, and of love, and of telling a really, really important story.
And who was in your cast? Who else was on the tour with you?
I was really, our whole team were amazing, and we were led by the incredible Leighton Williams, who is one of the most...
Whatever happened to him?
Yeah, I know. One of the most incredibly beautiful, talented, funny, naughty people I've ever worked with in my life. I mean, I'd be singing in his ear on stage, and literally, because Leighton was facing upstage, Leighton would listen to me, a bit higher, like alive on stage, really, really naughty. Got to work, Bianca Del Rio did the show for a while in a musical, which none of us thought was a good idea, but there we go. She filled Southampton, so we were fine. We sold out Southampton. And she was amazing in it, of course, because that role is about, a drag queen of her age finding new queens and helping them along, which she's done with me massively. Shane Ritchie was in it for ages. Shobna Gulati, who I absolutely adore. Amy Ellen Richardson was Margaret New, who's so talented. And one of my best friends, I call her Dame Denning, but Lara Denning was Miss Hedge. And, the show was, and they're all now still friends, and I love that.
And what happened to all of your drag gigs when you went away to do the show? Like, was that not a risk?
It was a huge risk. It was kind of a point where I was gigging constantly. I was here every Sunday. I was kind of maybe doing 5 or 6 gigs a week. And then I had to phone round all the venues and say, I'm going on tour for a year. I'm going to try and do as much as I still can. So if we had time, I'd fly back to London, I'd do the Brewers, or I'd do whatever I could. And because I'm relatively intelligent. I just went through the list of venues we were doing and called up every gay bar in a city we were arriving in and saying, do you want me that week? And most places said yes. So I'd do the show and then go straight to the gay bar on a Friday night and do Leicester or Aberdeen or wherever we were.
Where do you find the stamina to do that?
I think of the money. But also in Jamie, the queens are only in the show for 17 minutes.
Because you were like a virgin, right?
Like a virgin and young local, yes.
Yeah.
And I think we got one of the dressers to time all of our bits on stage, and I think overall the stage time was something like 17 minutes.
Nowhere near the time that it even takes to get ready.
Exactly.
Wow, that's extraordinary. And did anyone from the audience speak to you after the show and say how much it affected them?
Yeah, lots. I would get lots of messages. I think because I was a real working queen in the show, people were able to access my Instagrams and things to comment and message and say what they thought. And you would see, which was wonderful, families with their younger children and teenagers and everything. And I think that's what was so important about the show. And then they would wait at stage door and talk, and there'd be people dressed as Jamie and things like that. And I think, I don't think you can truly appreciate what they're going through until they do kind of come and say to you, this has changed my child's life, because they've watched it online or they've seen it in London first, they listened to the music, and now seeing it in front of them, and I know it's cheesy because it's like the tagline of the show, they see a place where they belong. And that is genuinely what that show's about. And it's given so many people across the world now that place.
Do you think you're maybe giving those audiences the very thing that you told me you needed when you were a kid?
1,000,000%. Yeah. 1,000,000%. I know if when I was younger, a show like that would have been around, I would have been, it would probably have changed my life in terms of understanding myself a bit more, or being willing to understand myself, being willing to allow those feelings to be in my life quicker, I guess.
And let's go from a brand new piece of queer theatre to an older one, the Cage Aux Folles.
Yeah, the Cage Aux Folles was a dream, genuinely a dream come true for me. To be part of that company, to be accepted into a big show like that was, I worked my socks off, because I didn't want there to be a moment in the rehearsals or in the run where anybody said, oh, she's in it because she's a queen. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want anyone to think, oh, they just wanted to put a real queen in here so they can say there's a real drag queen in the process, blah, 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 which they were really keen to have, because Tim Sheeder, the director, was like, I want to have conversations in the rehearsal room about what it's like to be in a drag bar and how it works and how the conversations happen backstage. And so when we would have that, and I wasn't the only working queen, there was other queens as well, amazing queens, but I was probably the most established, or the one who was doing it for the longest. So when we'd have those chats in the rooms, or we're rehearsing something, a backstage scene, Tim would often stop and be like, is this how it works? And I'd be like, no, this is too staged. Do you know what I mean? None of us sit there like pretty and we're all literally like slinging our suitcases past each other, fighting and, having a drink and whatever, smoking back in the days that was set. They'd all been smoking. And he was like, yeah, that's exactly not only why you're here, but that's what I wanted you here for especially. And
I suppose there would have been the same kind of insight for Carmelani, for example.
Yeah.
Who, again, brilliant West End performer, but also superb cabaret artist. And I imagine the insight that Carl had and you had is what made it, and let's call it what it is, such a superb production. Because it was stunning. Yeah,
Carl is a sensational performer in whatever they do, whether they're hosting Freedom or in Titanic now, stunning. And even in traditional things like Les Mis and everything they'd done before. And then when I found out that Carl was playing Alban, I was like, it absolutely makes sense. That is the exact person who should be doing this role. Someone who has stood in clubs and pubs in front of an audience, raucous, ready for drag and whatever. Carl absolutely got it. Yeah. And then when did I Am What I Am at the end of Act 1, I saw everything that when you stand sometimes in places, and I'll be honest, in places you don't want to be in, but you're there because they're paying your bills, you stand there and you go, no, wait a minute. I am good and I do deserve to be here, and this is what I'm doing and this is what I want to do. Please respect that. Yeah. And that's in terms of teams and people working with you and an audience. And I think Carl absolutely got it.
Has it changed the way that you perform I Am What I Am now?
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
1,000,000%, because I sat in that rehearsal room, not the whole time, because, I mean, my goodness, Carl worked so hard, and we were away doing the can-can. But
Also tough.
also tough, yes, just a different kind of tough. But watching Carl every night do that number, and having seen a million other queens do it over the years, and, you know, some brilliantly and some not so, that's absolutely fine. But watching Carl do it and how it changed over the run and different days and, you know, as things do, yeah, I sing it from a completely different place now.
And what's it like to do a show in the rain?
A show in the rain is absolutely hilarious. The park, if you've never been to Regent's Park, everything is outdoors, except for the dressing rooms, but everything else is outdoors. And it is absolute chaos. Like, it is, because you're like, oh, you know what you're signing up for. So you're like, yeah, sure. But their policies, which are, you know, amazing, and it's across the board, they have a certain limit of where you can still do the show in the rain. And of course, as actors and as precious people, I'm like, no, this must be beyond the limit. And they're like, keep going. I'm like, what the hell? Like, drenched. We're literally drenched at this point. But that kind of adds to the magic of Regent's Park. If you've never been, you must go. I'm going to see Brigadoon next week. I can't wait. But it's an amazing experience. But drag in the rain was, yeah, not great. You're just wet tights are not a fun thing to have on.
I mean, you would know, I wouldn't. I do still sense this push and pull between drag and musical theatre, because you light up when you talk about these shows in a way that you did when you were talking about your childhood. You often joke, I'm not going to work in the West End, it doesn't pay as well. But is that a joke, or do you really mean that?
I think it's a joke. Like, in terms of, yeah, I think you're right. My love for musical theatre is huge. My love for theatre in general is massive. It's what I grew up doing, what I grew up watching, what I trained to do. I think, yes, I joke around, and we all joke about things like that. But I do think everyone should be paid more. But I do, I mean, I would do La Cage again in a heartbeat. No matter, I'd do it for free.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I'd do it for free now. I had such a good time on that job. The company were amazing. To work with my amazing friend Stephen Meir, who's just the most phenomenal, wonderful person and choreographer, who I was daily saying, please cut me from this number. And he was like, no. And he was like, up the front. I was like, oh, for God's sake. But, you know, like, it really, really sparked my love of theatre again, and love of dance, which I hadn't done for a long time, properly danced, and appreciating, because I guess I was lucky in things like Jamie, where I was a featured role and we were on stage for 17 minutes, really appreciating how hard it is for the ensemble and the swings of a show, because it's constant. They might not be on stage the most, but they're changing. They're having to make sure they're still warm, you know, especially if you're swinging or you're covering. It's a non-stop job, and they are underappreciated across the board. And I think for me, coming from being Mary Mac to being an ensemble member in La Cage, and there was no, you know, we were all featured as much as the other in terms of the Cagelles, I was like, this is phenomenal for me personally to be like, let's put the work in. And I loved doing the work.
And in case any casting directors are listening to this, what would you love to be doing?
Well, I really want to do Titanic. Let's just put that straight out there.
Sure.
I'd love to do that. And then in terms of, I don't know, there's lots of things I'd love to do. But I do think, and it's taken time, but I am working on it at the moment, I would love to do something out of drag. I just don't know what that is yet.
I genuinely wondered when I asked you to do this, I didn't expect you to be in drag. Because I would love to know more about JP McCue, the person behind all of this. And I purposely name you. And so many people said to me, you know, who's JP McCue? Mary Mac. Oh, I know Mary.
Yes.
Do you think that Mary allows you to be something that JP can't?
1,000,000%. I've done 2 shows as JP out of the country.
Yes, wait, I remember this at El Piano, right?
At El Piano in Sitges, which is one of my favourite places in the world.
Yeah.
And the boys there, Stephen and Bjorn, asked me to perform and said, look, we have this idea. Is there any way you'd be up for it? To do 2 nights as Mary and then do the last night as JP. And I was like, oh, I really have to think about it. And then talked to some friends and everyone was like, I think it would be a great idea. And it's a really gorgeous, supportive, amazing cabaret venue. And I knew most of the audience and they were like, just do it, see what happens. And listen, I loved it. It was like it was a wild experience because there's a mirror right down the side of the stage. And of course, when I'm up on stage, I don't see all of this. In terms of, I know I've put it on, but I don't see, I'm just talking to you normally.
Yeah.
But then obviously if I see a mirror or I see someone taking a picture, I can see that this is what they're seeing. So that night when I looked around and just saw me, that was terrifying. But I was very happy to do it. I'm doing it again this year.
What were the songs and stories you told as JP that perhaps Mary couldn't?
I did a lot of proper like big musical theatre numbers, some pop songs that I would never normally do as Mary. I had a thing with the audience that I said, if you think at any point when I'm talking or whatever, if you think I'm doing Mary, shout out.
Wow.
And it happened a couple of times just because of interactions with people, and it's my natural reaction to be funny or to be a quick-witted or whatever. And people would be like, oh, Mary. I was like, okay, catch me. And it was fascinating to do. But it's strangely now, I kind of had to think more as JP than I do as Mary.
Yeah. And for others in your life, is it hard to drop that mask?
No.
No, you can.
No. With my friends, absolutely not. Yeah. And my family, they don't see Mary. I think even if they watch me on stage, they don't see Mary.
And let's talk about one of your dear friends who has enabled you to play arenas. Bianca Del Rio. Now, I have to be honest with you. I have seen, I think, maybe 6 or 7 episodes of RuPaul's Drag Race. However, even I know who Bianca Del Rio is. How on earth did you two come into each other's orbit?
We met at Heaven, hosting or judging Porn Idol. Can I say that in here? This is back in the day. A long, long time ago. We were judging this at Heaven. And I think I was flying in from somewhere and my plane was delayed and whatever. Anyway, I was late. And Bianca is the consummate professional. Like, everything is to the nail and, phenomenal. But things happen and flights are delayed and she knew it wasn't my fault. Anyway, I came in, I'm rushing. I've done my face on the Gatwick Express. I'm running into Heaven. I've got my wig in my bag and I'm getting the drag out and I get the wig out, I put it on my head and she says to Jeremy, hold the show. And she gets me in the chair and she fixes my hair. And I've just met her. She's like, no, you're not sitting next to me like that. And she's fixing my hair. And she says herself now, most queens will say Bianca is rotted, she is horrible, she is evil. But the worst thing Bianca can say to you is, sit down. Because you know she's going to fix something on you. These are her earrings. Oh. Yeah, she makes earrings for me because she says that I'm not pretty enough to not wear earrings. And that is true. True.
Have you seen the movie Mummy Dearest?
Well, I mean, literally. But and then we hit it off that night and stayed in touch, and then we worked together lots. And then eventually she said to me, well, we'd done Jamie together, but I think we already knew we were going on tour before that. And yes, she said, do you want to do my opening act for the tour? And I was like, oh my God, okay, yeah, sure. Let's see what happens. And it's great because she'll use people like myself and Myra Dubois, Sherry Vine, amazing Sutton Lee Seymour in America, because we are more musical comedy queens. I mean, Myra's probably the closest to Bianca than the rest of us. But she's like, because I want people to see other drag. They know what they're coming to get with me. They're going to get 90 minutes of evil hate. But she's like, and also, I want to support my friends who haven't done Drag Race to give them the audience that I've got. And I mean, it has changed my audience dramatically. People know me in Reykjavik now. They don't like me, but they know me.
And just so we can get an idea, what was the largest audience that you had to play to with Bianca?
I mean, we've done Hammersmith Apollo a couple of times together now, which is like 3,300, something like that. I think that's maybe the biggest. And then there's some, like in Amsterdam was massive. Reykjavik was beautiful. To be able to go and do these places and also like not really have to change the content. They love drag. They love everything about drag. I had to talk slower, obviously, because my Scottish accent, they're like, what the hell? But they just, I mean, the fans of Bianca are phenomenal. You know, they are diehard fans. And then they're really open and welcome to whatever she thinks is good. So they're like, okay, let's see what we think. And majority have loved it. And yet to do, you know, to have 3,300 people singing Mary Mac on the floor back to you is absolutely sensational. Terrifying to see Hammersmith Apollo upside down when I'm in the back bend. But it's an amazing job.
And obviously there's Bianca Del Rio, and you've mentioned a few already, but who have been the most extraordinary heroes that you've had a chance to work with?
I mean, I think mostly for me, personally for me, it's queens. Because I just, especially my friends who are older queens like Lola Lasagna, Miss Jason when she was with us, because I know how hard they've worked to get to where they got to now and the difficulties they've seen on the community, you know, within the community. And how fortunate we are, although, you know, everything's not perfect, to be able to stand on stage across the country, across the world, in most places in a much safer environment than it was when they first started, you know. And I love talking about the old venues and the old places. I don't see Dave Lynn that much, but every time I see them, we have such fantastic conversations. And these older queens, as, you know, bitchy and as funny as we can all be on stage, are so supportive. Because I think there's this thing of, they don't want everything they've done to vanish. Yeah. And I think sometimes they see the other bits of drag coming and going and you know, and going into different avenues, which is great. And it's wonderful that drag is mainstream again. But it should never not be in these spaces. Do you know what I mean? I think we have to make sure that the hard work that everybody did, that Lily did, that Regina did, Adrella did, Lola's doing still. I mean, she can't get her off a mic. But that we make sure that we're continuing to, you know, carry that torch.
And who are the young drag acts that inspire you, that you think are a new generation?
I don't know any of them. No, I'm joking. I watch amazing people that I think are so super talented, and I find new people all the time. There's a queen in Brighton, Ophelia Payne. I saw her for the first time over Pride. She was phenomenal, hilariously funny, you know, and coming up with all these brand new ideas that I don't have unless I sit down and suddenly that inspires me to go away and think of something new, you know. And I think there's amazing queens, like I mentioned earlier. Her, the queen, is phenomenally talented, works so hard at it. This is my thing, and I've said it to everyone. I will love you if you work hard. Yeah. I don't like people who just kind of wander in or think that they should get this or they should be here or they should be working in this venue. No. You work to get there. And it's the same in theatre, and I guess the same in any job. I haven't really had to have an office job, and I had one, it was horrible. I was horrible at it.
What was that?
Oh, I worked in a car hire company. Can you imagine?
Well, maybe in that jacket, perhaps.
It was absolutely horrific. I just have to phone the DVLA every day. It was so boring. I think that's why I don't drive now, just so I don't have to deal with the DVLA. But there's amazing queens, and I'm being terrible because my mind is rubbish with names. But I see them everywhere, and Manchester has this amazing scene, you know, that of these queens that are working so hard. They come up with new numbers every week and new ideas. And there's a place called the New Union, which I hope they don't take offense to this if they see it. But back when I started, you'd avoid it like the plague. Mm-hmm. But now it's got this resurgence with these new queens who are putting on these incredible nights. And what they do, which I think is wonderful, is they all work in groups. So they'll do like these nights where there's 5 or 6 of them on, and they all support each other. They do each other's lights and sound and curtains and smoke and costume changes and everything. I think that's phenomenal. You know, This is a drag show. This is a production. And I think long may that last.
Do you think drag needs to become more political with all of the terrifying things that are happening all over the world?
I think drag is political, full stop. I think, yes, we probably should be speaking up a lot more. I certainly made sure I was saying things on stage at Brighton Pride last weekend. That's the kind of places we have to be saying it, because thankfully there are a lot of allies, straight people who are at these events because they want to join in and they want to, and hopefully be there to celebrate with us. But they also have to hear. They can't just hear Proud Mary 17 times over the weekend. They also have to hear, we got to change some things here. Our governments are crazy, and and I'm saying governments across the board here. I'm not saying either sides of anything, because nobody's standing up for us. No one's standing up for our trans brothers and sisters and making sure they're safe. So we have to say it on a microphone, and more than that, we have to make sure we're out there fighting with them and for them.
And show up. Well said. Now, I want to talk to you about pantomime.
Yeah.
Because so often, I think, unless you've worked in it or you love it, a lot of people might think, oh, it's just a silly thing that happens at Christmas. I'm aware that for months and months and months, Panto is an enormous part of your life. Indeed, there have been shows where you have starred, directed, and written. What is it about Panto that you love, and why is it important?
I think I watched it from a very early age. I watched pantomime in Glasgow, and when I was younger, I think there was like 5 big full pantos in Glasgow, and we'd go and see them all. One uncle and auntie would take you to one, and then my mum would take us to another, and it was kind of, we were all out over Christmas. And then when I got to be in them from a young age, I loved them. And I was very lucky. The Gampta where I went to, the productions were full productions, it wasn't, no offense to anyone, a panto in a church hall. It was a full production, amazing. And we do 63 performances at the age of 8. So I knew how hard it was to do panto, but also how fun it was. So then I hadn't done it for a while when I graduated because I was doing other things. So then when I got the chance to go back and work at Leamington, where I do panto now, I was like, okay, here we go again. And I was just in the cast as a boy originally. And then I took over as the dame 11 years ago, I think. And then I think 2 years into that, started to write it. And then a few years later, started to direct it. So now, I write it, I co-write it, I co-direct it, and I'm the dame, yeah.
And what ingredients does a good pantomime need to have?
It has to have the traditional story, beginning, middle, and end, so that everyone knows where we're going. Then it has to have absolute chaos peppered over all of it. So even the nice bits has to have some element of, you think something's going to come crashing down, or someone's going to come in the middle of a love duet and annoy everyone. It has to have the absolute anarchy that British panto has. And then it has to have this level of, we can play the whole thing for the kids, and don't have to change a word of it, but the adults will roar with laughter at the same time, because it's this innuendo comedy that kids think it's funny because their parents are laughing, but neither knows why. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic. And that noise, genuinely, that noise in a theatre is amazing, because it's a different kind of laughter, because the parents are kind of trying to stifle the laugh at, like a dick joke in Dick Whittington or whatever. But it's a dick joke that the kids are like, oh, we know why you've just said that, because you're telling off Dick. But what I've said is, I've had enough Dick. Do you know what I mean? And then, of course, the adults are like, no, she hasn't.
Can you?
And that is panto for me. That is the absolute joy of it.
We're coming to the end of the show. What do you wish I had asked you about?
I think we've kind of covered most things. I guess what's next, probably, but
Sure.
I don't really know what's next. I never kind of know what's next. I spent this morning looking at next year, and that's a lot of other drag queens looking like April and May at next year. I'm like, I've got so much going on. Thankfully, I'm very grateful that it kind of takes to this time of year when I go, oh, I better figure out what next year's going to look like. And hopefully, the people I spoke to today, it's going to be gorgeous and new parts of the world to perform in and new things like that. But I just kind of hope that I can keep running at this pace for a little while longer, and then I'll slow down for a minute and do different things. And I'm very open to new ideas next year.
And from the sounds of things, people like the late Jason Sutton, my friend, Bet Rince, you heard some inspiring words of wisdom that really inspired you when you were just starting out and surviving. What words do you have for the drag queens listening to this that are just desperate to have even one of your gigs?
Believe in the talent you have, in whatever aspect that is, whether you look sensational and you can death drop and cartwheel the whole length of Clapham High Street, or whether you are a comedy queen or whether you are a singer, believe in that talent. If you believe in that talent and you care about it and you work hard at it, an audience will appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Don't think that you have to do what everyone else does, because it'd be a boring drag scene if we all did the same thing. Mm. You have to believe in yourself and your talent and allow the audience to see that.
That's beautiful. I have one last part of the show, and this is a very silly part of the show, and it's called Funny 5 Minutes. And I'm going to ask you very, very short, quick questions, and you have to answer as quickly as possible. You are welcome to say pass, but you're only allowed 3 passes.
Okay.
Liam, hit the button. Funny 5 minutes, here we go. What's your most annoying habit?
I talk to myself.
Secret talent?
I can't say that on a podcast.
Is that a pass? Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Oh. Most overrated drag artist?
RuPaul.
Way! Have you ever been arrested?
Never.
Favorite swear word?
Cunt.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Incorrect. What do you think is the meaning of life?
The meaning of life is to love.
Oh. Do you believe that ghosts are real?
I've seen one.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have.
Pause the track. Stop the music. Pause the music. You've seen a ghost?
I've seen a ghost.
Wait. Where?
I saw a ghost in one of my ex-girlfriend's house.
Wow, that's a load of things I
It's
never
a whole
thought
other
you would
podcast,
say.
to be honest. It's a whole other podcast.
What did this ghost look like?
Well, it looked like my dad's mum, because she was dead. This is a true story. I can tell this really quickly.
Yeah.
I was in Panto. I didn't know she was dead. My family kept it from me because I was young and they thought I wouldn't be able to finish the show if I found out. And I was doing Panto. I had a girlfriend at the time. I was very young. I'm pretending. And I was staying at her house, but we weren't allowed to sleep in the same bed, and I had to sleep with the door open. And I looked out into the hallway and I saw the figure of my dad's mum, and I hadn't seen her in years. My dad's mum, and she stood, she looked at me, and she vanished through the floor. True story.
Liam, put the music back on. Sweet or savoury?
Sweet.
Favourite play?
Oh my God. What is it called? 6 characters in search of an author. Yes.
Very good. What do you think is the stupidest thing you've ever done?
Come up with the Mary Mac medley.
Very good. What would your autobiography be called?
Is she still doing the Mary Mac medley?
If you were a superhero, what would your superpower be?
Oh, to be able to fly. Make my life so much easier.
Do you have a teddy bear?
No.
Would you swap lives with anyone?
No.
Do you believe a swan could actually break someone's neck?
Definitely.
Really?
Oh, they're evil.
Yeah, sure, but they can't break a neck.
Oh, they can.
Okay. Who is the nicest smelling person you know?
Oh my gosh. Oh, my friend Gary Lee.
Oh,
he always smells amazing.
Well, there we go.
I don't think it's his smell. I think he puts things on.
Yeah, I hope so. You know, that's really cottoned on now.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
No, right, I must try it. I must try
there's
it.
a few drag queens I wish would wear more of it. Anyway. I'm afraid that's the end of the show. For those tuning in from home, backstage, or while walking around Waitrose, make sure you like and subscribe to the Show People podcast to be notified as soon as the next episode drops and help us reach audiences all around the world. We'd like to extend our gratitude to our fantastic sponsors, Theatre Counts, the entertainment industry's trusted accountants, looking after thousands of clients across theatre and performance. Connect with them at theatrecounts.co.uk or at theatrecounts on social media. Jake Waby Productions, London's experts in theatre and live performance, videography, capturing your stories just the way you want them. From West End shows to global content, their experienced team delivers exceptional cinematic storytelling. A huge thank you to the 2 brewers, Liam Chaplin, and all of their glorious staff. This podcast is proudly produced by Queer Theatre, committed to telling LGBTQ+ stories and nurturing queer talent. If you've enjoyed this podcast and would like to support our work, please consider making a donation at queertheatre.co.uk, where you'll also discover details about our weekly acting classes for LGBTQ+ people, the Queer Play Reading Club, showcases, networking events, parties, and masterclasses. If you're queer, come and be a part of our community. If you're not, come and be an ally and support our shows like coming to see the Show People podcast live. Finally, please put your hands together for our extraordinary guest, JP McCue, aka Mary Mac.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, gorgeous.
Until next time, love always.